The dark sky spread wide above Harriet. Harriet's feet throbbed from pain. Her stomach ached in hunger. But Harriet knew that every step she took was one step farther from the slave masters in Maryland and one step closer to her freedom. Harriet was alone. The vastness of the night made her feel small and vulnerable. Harriet prayed to the Lord to make her strong. She would rather die trying to be free than live in slavery. In 1850, the U.S. government passed the Fugitive Slave Act. This law guaranteed the right of slave owners to recover the human beings they had enslaved. This also meant that the United States government would help them. Men made a business out of hunting down the people who had escaped. If an enslaved person was captured, the consequences were severe. They were beaten, whipped, or even murdered. Harriet traveled 90 miles north and finally reached Pennsylvania, a quote-unquote free state. She looked forward to building her life there without the violence and cruelty of American slavery. But Harriet could not forget her people, a people who were still enslaved. Harriet would soon return to the South. She became a conductor in what was known as the Underground Railroad. This wasn't a true railroad with trains. It was a secret network of people, houses, and churches. These locations were often called stations. It worked like this. African Americans found ways to escape. They had to do this on their own. It was their responsibility to make it to the underground station. From there, an underground conductor would help them travel farther north. Some people traveled through established routes from Michigan into Canada. Others traveled from Pennsylvania into New England. Some routes went west from Ohio to Indiana. One of the myths of the Underground Railroad was that it operated in the South. If you were a person who had been enslaved in the Deep South, like Louisiana or Georgia, it would have been almost impossible to escape. There are very few records of people who escaped from the Deep South. Most of the African Americans who escaped, like Harriet, came from border states like Maryland, Virginia, and Kentucky. A second myth of the Underground Railroad was that it was operated by white abolitionists. While this is partly true, the Underground Railroad was primarily orchestrated by African Americans who had been formerly enslaved or born free. William Still, Henry Brown, Frederick Douglass, and Harriet Tubman are a few of these conductors. These underground conductors risked their freedom and their lives to help rescue their people. One last myth of the Underground Railroad was that there were many Northerners that were willing to help African Americans who had escaped. Unfortunately, the opposite was true. The U.S. government made it illegal to help those who sought their freedom. Violating the 1850 Fugitive Slave Act meant treason. As a conductor in the Underground Railroad, Harriet returned to the South 19 times. She brought her parents and siblings to live life in Philadelphia. By the end of Harriet's life, she was responsible for bringing about the freedom to hundreds of people. I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years, and I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger. Thanks for watching Deeper Than Red. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media.